Sunday. The team put on another promising display. There was one huge error from David De Gea at the start of the game, resulting in a goal for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So could on-loan goalkeeper Dean Henderson, impressing at Sheffield United, soon be in the mix for the #1 shirts?
We want the best possible squad for Man United, and Dean's our player, so he's doing really well at the moment. And the day he comes back, he's obviously fighting to play here as well. But for me, David's shown here today his reaction. You know, the way he made amends and saved Sigurdsson's goal or chance at the end. David's for me the best goalkeeper in the world, and Dean's a very good challenger, and then Sergio's a decent challenger as well.
Already we're into the Dean Henderson chat. Just 22 years old. He's a youngster. Dean Henderson, is he one of those players that you'd bring in? Can we even be talking about this when David De Gea is in between the sticks?
No, he's not ready. I don't think he's ready. He's had one season in the Premier League. Yes, he's got talent. Yes, he's got ability. And he's got a lot of self-confidence as well, as we know from hearing from him as well. He's not ready. David De Gea, as bad as he's been, he's still a better goalkeeper than Dean Henderson. He's still talented, he's got experience. The thing with De Gea, he's just got to cut out this sloppy nonsense, as we saw on Sunday. United are playing well, they're in a rhythm, and what you don't need from a goalkeeper is stupidness like that 3 minutes into a game, and it completely kills the whole game plan. United played well, got back into it, but they shouldn't have been in a position where they had to come back from a deficit.
Melissa, before we get your response to that argument, you may be agreeing, should we hear from him? Here is Dean Henderson talking even at the start of February.
The big dream is to play for Manchester United one day for me, and I've always had that dream throughout my life, so until that's accomplished, I'll never think I've made it. And even if I play for them once, it doesn't mean I've made it. I need to pay for them 500 times, 300 times, whatever it is. And then you can turn around and say at the end of your career, I made it, I did what I set out to do, and I won trophies with the club I always wanted to win them with, and this, that and the other.
There's the confidence.
Very, very good attitude, and from speaking to a lot of goalkeepers, they think that he could be a top goalkeeper, could grow into a top goalkeeper. He's not one at the moment. He's performed incredibly well this season. There's a difference between being in goal for Sheffield United and being in goal for Manchester United. Different set of pressure, expectations, global sort of criticism on what you're doing well, what you're not doing, or, you know, there's just a completely different environment that you have to perform in. On David De Gea, who has been previously one of the best goalkeeper in the world previously, or one of the best. I think Solskjaer is wrong. He's definitely not the best goalkeeper in the world anymore. He has had to bail Manchester United out so many times for so many seasons through all their uncertainty, upheaval. He has been a constant. He was their best player. And I think that takes a toll to have to shoulder that much responsibility, to have to be the main guy, to have to play behind a faltering defence for so long and a unworkable midfield is not the best. And I think that has hampered his own game somewhat. I do think you'd expect more from David De Gea because he has set so many high standards. Perhaps him and Manchester United have parted ways a long time ago. It would have been better maybe for him personally. I don't think for United, because it is very hard to recruit a world-class goalkeeper. But I think that has hampered him somewhat. Obviously, there's no mitigation for making a mistake like the one he did, but I think psychologically it has maybe taken a toll on him.
I'd cut him some slack. As much as I blame him for that goal, I think there was a stat this week that he's made 7 goals. He's cost United 7 goals, which is him and Jordan Pickford, ironically, a top of the table, top of the hit parade in terms of that chart as well. But yes, he's been brilliant for Manchester United. I don't think that necessarily may or may not excuse some of the mistakes he's made. He's having a bad time. It happens to players, but I wouldn't be in the position where I'd say he has to go. I think they made a mistake doing that with Lukaku. Lukaku was brilliant for the first season, had one bad season, all of a sudden he's a bad player. I don't buy that. I think David De Gea can be, again, potentially the best goalkeeper in the world. I just think he's just got to find himself, get back to basics and cutting out the sloppy mistakes.
Such a tough position, isn't it? It's easy to say that, but you make one mistake and it's glaring, isn't it?
But the problem as well is we talk about teams playing out from back. So much more is expected of goalkeepers now. You know, they want you, managers want you to be as good with your feet as Messi nowadays, and it's just impossible. Your first and foremost job, as we talk about defending, is as a goalkeeper to help keep clean sheets, not necessarily trying to start attacks where you're looking to play balls in between centre forwards. You've got that to think about. You've got to have a good first touch. You've got to be able to clip the ball over other players to keep your team in possession. I think he has to go back to basics of being a very, very good goalkeeper who commands his area and gives confidence to his back four.
As a player yourself, do you feel that sometimes the upheaval, the uncertainty, the fact that standards have dropped so much during his time at United and, the United he joined and that sort of hunger for silverware, and so do you think all of that, the fact that he has to be responsible and bail them out so many times could have an effect?
Not necessarily. I think what's happened is because they've not been as good, he's had to be pulled into more saves. In some ways, he's actually performed like a mid-table goalkeeper because United's defence has been that bad. He's having to actually make a lot more saves, which is why he became their player of the year for so many times, because he was doing that well. United are doing well. Goalkeepers don't really come into it. As we know at Liverpool, we don't talk about Alisson in that way, having to make loads of great saves, because he's got a great defence in front of him as well.
I want to talk about analytics because I can now say it in just a moment, but just briefly, as a player, when you were playing, did you respond better to being dropped or playing through it? We always hear that, or let them play through it, or is it better just have some time out and then come back?
Don't want to be dropped. Not a chance. I don't. You tell me a footballer.
Is that the same for a keeper?
You tell me a footballer who wants to be dropped, and that person isn't a footballer, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't matter how badly you're playing. You want to play through it as well. You have to. As a centre forward, if you're not scoring in about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, as long as you're still working out, as long as you're still doing the same things that got you those goals, it shouldn't really be an issue. Most managers and fans want players, if they're not scoring goals as a centre forward, put in a shift, work hard. If you're doing those things, eventually it will happen for you. I don't buy into this thing at all about taking him out of the firing line. You're just being dropped. That's what it is. You're being dropped because the manager doesn't think you're being good enough.
Remind me never to drop you. Now, reports in the press on Monday claim that United are to hire a team of 8 people who will help identify talent through the use of data, something that the club are behind others in the Premier League in doing so. David Sumter has written a number of articles and books on the subject of football data and algorithms. He's also Professor of Applied Mathematics at the University of Uppsala in Sweden, from where he joins us now. Hiya, David.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolute delight. Right, we're all ready for the science bit. What's happening here, and are they a bit late to the party?
So I feel they are a little bit late to the party. The party started maybe about 5 years ago. I wrote a book, Soccermatics, about how we could actually take a lot more maths into how we analyse football. And it's just been growing from there. I mean, we know that Liverpool have been really quick onto this. They probably started about 8 years ago. And then you hear about other clubs. Leicester have a person working for them. I've been down a few times to Barcelona, where it's very big. And United, I think if they're just getting started, if it really is true now that they're just getting started now with hiring 8 people, then they're a little bit late to the party.
David, could you just explain to me exactly what these guys will be doing in terms of what Liverpool are doing and how that manifests itself into what they do and identifying a player?
So what Liverpool do and a lot of other clubs do is that they have a model of how much each player contributes to the game. And you can think about it like this. So if you do a long pass up from the back line up to a forward, that's worth a lot in football. It increases the chance of you scoring a goal. So basically what you do is you count up the number of passes you make, and you also weight them by how much they increase the chance of your team scoring a goal. That's the basic method. You do the opposite thing with interceptions and headers in the box. they decrease the opposition's chance of scoring a goal. So you rank them in the same way. And that's what a scouting department will do. They have like slightly different methods for solving this. But overall, they try and find out the probability that a player, or the degree to which a player increases or decreases the probability of their team scoring a goal.
David, we know that Manchester United want to hire these 8 people, but how important is it for them not to just think, ooh, other clubs are doing it, let's do this thing, but actually buy into it? Because, we're talking about the top end of the Premier League. A team like Liverpool have their own research department. But even when you look at clubs like Brentford who buy into this wholesale and actually, build a lot of their recruitment around those numbers, how important is it for Manchester United to actually fully subscribe to this and not just do it because it's something that looks good and other clubs are doing?
I think there's a big risk there, because I think there's about 8 or 9 people in the entire world who are qualified to do this type of thing just now. And they're not all going to go and work for United. And that's going to be their problem, is actually finding a team leader who's going to be able to do this and then recruiting people after that. So I'm a little bit concerned that they say that they're going to find 8 people immediately and try and go from there. It's nice that they're starting this, but I do wonder about exactly what they're going to do with all of these 8 people. I think if you take the Liverpool example, they started with 1 person. It was the same at Arsenal. They started with a couple of people. Leicester have 1 person now. So I think it might be a case of starting small, finding what works for the club, and then developing from there. I work with several different clubs, and I work mainly with the club Hammarby in Stockholm. And there it's really about having 1 person who really is capable and knows what they're doing, that has the mathematical skills to analyse these types of things.
David, can I ask you, when you read that as somebody who's an expert in studying this field, did you think that sounds odd? Did you think it was more of a sort of PR thing, hey, look at what we're doing to catch up, rather than rooted in reality?
I don't think it's a PR thing. I mean, I think if you recruit 8 people, you don't do that just for PR. I think it sounds a little bit like a knee-jerk response, so I would say that. So I go to a few conferences and read lots of the research papers, and I haven't really seen anything come out of United in this type of way. And so it's slightly worrying that they're going in at the deep end. But of course, as somebody who thinks that maths and football work so well together, it's very exciting when United do say, now we're going to really go in at the deep end and go for this.
What, you shook your head a couple of times.
No, I didn't shake my head.
I know you love an XG.
No. God, expected goals. Don't start me on that. I'm just fascinated just to know how, as I mentioned, when these guys collect this data and it's presented to either a coach or a manager, just how it manifests itself into actual recruitment. Because, as you said, you talk about a defender making a long pass, or that makes them more valuable. In essence, a scout watching these players live should be able to actually see these things anyway.
Absolutely. And you can never get rid of the human. It's not about replacing humans. But let me give an example. So we have a central midfielder playing for us in Hammarby, Darijan Bojanic. And he had a sort of body language, a bit more like a mathematician. He's hunched up a little bit like this. But then when we actually looked at his statistics and where he was delivering the ball on the pitch, you could see that he was one of the best players in the league. So the scout has always got a part in the game, but at the same time, we get very fooled by body language. I think another great example coming back to United is Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, when he's on the pitch, he contributes a massive amount to Manchester United, statistically. And you can say what you want about Paul Pogba, and much of it comes down to his body language. In fact, when he's taking the ball, he's increasing the probability of the team scoring over and over again. We did an analysis where we compared all the United players and all the Liverpool players. Top 10 last season, all the top players were Liverpool players, apart from 1. We had Paul Pogba ranked number 2 after Virgil van Dijk.
Well. We haven't got a 4-hour show. You've brought up Paul Pogba.
It wasn't going so good for the rest of the team.
See?
You met Graham
you had me
Souness.
until then. David, an absolute delight. You can come back anytime you like, whatever anyone else says. There's my guarantee. David, thank you. I love data. I love science. I'm going to give you your stats before we end the show. Just briefly, the way forward for you?
I'm interested because I think the biggest priority for United in terms of recruitment of director of football, so who can actually be at the top of the tree, and these data analysis guys can actually feed the information into her, or they can start making some signings.
Oh, we are done. We are done. What have we had? We've had plastic surgery for Arsenal. We had a bit of that data analytics. We've discovered you've got an XG tattoo somewhere. You've been with us too. Thank you for all your messages using that.